The next conic section that we will discuss is the ellipse. Ellipses can be found in nature. Johannes Kepler discovered and stated in his first law of planetary motion that the orbits of planets take the shape of an ellipse. Apart from appearing in nature, ellipses have a number of practical uses. For example, the geometric properties of ellipses are maximized in design, supporting arches in bridges and hallways and whispering galleries. To formally define what is an ellipse, it is a set of points on a plane whose sum of distances from two fixed points is a constant. And these fixed points are called the focus. And the midpoint of this foci is called the center of the ellipse. So there are two kinds of ellipses. Meron tayo dito yung horizontal ellipse and the vertical ellipse. Let's take a look at this ellipse with center at 0, 0. So yung gitna natin dito, yun yung ating center at 0, 0. This green line here is called the major axis. And the endpoints of this major axis are called the vertices. Notice that the distance between the center and a vertex is a. Therefore, the distance between these two vertices is 2a. So the length of the major axis now is 2a. We also have here our co-vertices, nasa taas, tsaka nasa baba ng center natin. So notice here that from the center to a co-vertex, the distance is b. And this line from the co-vertex to the other co-vertex is called the minor axis with a length of 2b. And we have here the foci, yung dalawang red natin, and the distance from the center to a focus is c. Therefore, from the focus to another focus, the distance is 2c. And we have here the relationship between a, b, and c. That is, b squared is equal to a squared minus c squared. And the line through the focus is the principal axis. So, etong line na to, if we extend itong major axis natin, kasi dito naglalay yung ating mga foci, then we call this line as the principal axis. So, let's show the equation of an ellipse at center 0, 0, and the principal axis is on the line y equals 0, or the x-axis. So by definition, if we have a point P, x, y here, yung distance daw nito from the focus 1 plus yung distance nito from the focus 2 is actually a fixed number. Now the question is, ano yung fixed number na yon? So kapag nilipat ko yung point dito, ganoon ulit dapat. Yung distance niya from F1 plus yung distance niya from F2, dapat fixed ulit yon. But what is that fixed number? Okay. Let's say, andito yung point natin. So, the distance from focus 1, and this is the distance from focus 2. So, itong distance na ito ng point natin, same ito sa distance nung point na ito. Pero ano ba yung distance ng point natin na to from the two foci? Kikita natin dito na ito yung kanyang distance. Distance 1 plus yung kanyang distance 2. But what is this distance? Diba sabi natin, from the center to a vertex is A. And from the center to a focus is C. So kung buong ito ay A, at itong part na to ay C, ano itong part lang na ito? That is just A minus C. So yung unang distance natin is A minus C. Plus, ano naman yung pangalawang distance natin ngayon? So from here up to here, we are sure that that is A. From here up to foci number 2, we know that that is C. So itong distance na ito is actually A plus C. So the distance 2 is equal to A plus C. And if we add the two distances, makikita ninyo that that is just equal to 2A. So actually, yung sinasabi pala dito na fixed distance is actually equal to 2A. Kahit anong point pala yan, yung sum ng distances niya from the two foci is equal to 2A. So with that information, we know that PF sub 1 plus PF sub 2 now is equal to 2A. But what is PF sub 1? That is just square root of x minus negative c squared plus y minus 0 squared. And PF sub 2, this is equal to x minus c squared plus y minus 0 squared. Then take the square root because that is the distance. And that is now equal to 2a. Ngayon, ilipat natin ito yung isa doon sa kabila. So we now have square root of x plus c squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to 2a minus the square root of x minus c squared plus y minus 0 squared. From there, iti-take ngayon natin yung square of both sides. So ito, matatanggal na yung kanyang square root. Tapos ito, mai-square siya. So we have x plus c squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to, so we square this, we have 4a squared. 2 times, multiply natin to, so we have negative 4a times the square root of x minus c squared plus y minus 0 squared plus, square natin to, so we have x minus c squared plus y minus 0 squared. And then, kunin natin yung mga squares ng mga naka-squared na term natin. So we have x squared plus 2xc plus c squared plus y squared is equal to 4a squared minus 4a times the square root of this plus x squared minus 2xc plus c squared plus y squared. And here, makikita ninyo na pwede natin i-cancel ito. Ito. Okay? Which leaves us with 2xc equals 4a squared minus 4a square root of x minus c squared plus y minus 0 squared minus 2xc. Ngayon, ililipat natin lahat ng walang square root dun sa kabila para pwede ulit tayong mag-square on both sides. Ito, nilipat natin sa kabila. Ito, sa kabila naman. So we have 4a square root of x minus c squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to 4a squared minus 2xc minus 2xc. So ito yung isang negative 2xc, ito yung isang negative 2xc. Or that is now 4a times square root of x minus c squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 4a squared minus 4xc. And if we divide everything by 4, we now have a times the square root of x minus c squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to a squared minus xc. So, pwede ngayon natin i-simplify yung nasa loob. So, we have x squared minus 2xc plus c squared plus y squared. Then, squaring both sides, we have a squared times x squared minus 2xc plus c squared plus y squared equals, so if we square this, a raised to 4 minus 2a squared xc plus x squared c squared. Ngayon, ipasok natin tong a squared dito sa loob. So we have a squared x squared minus 2a squared xc plus a squared c squared plus a squared y squared equals a raised to 4 minus 2a squared xc plus x squared c squared. So, pwede ngayon natin i-cancel ito kasi parehas sila. So, we now have a squared x squared plus a squared c squared plus a squared y squared equals a raised to 4 plus x squared c squared. Then, ilipat natin to sa kabila. At ilipat na naman natin to sa kabila. So, we have a squared x squared minus x squared c squared plus a squared y squared is equal to a raised to 4 minus a squared c squared. Or we have, by grouping this, tapos ilalabas natin yung x squared, we have x squared times a squared minus c squared plus a squared y squared equals, eto naman, ilalabas din natin yung a squared, so we have a squared times a squared minus c squared. But remember, sabi ko kanina, merong relationship na b squared is equal to a squared minus c squared. Therefore, a squared minus c squared here and here are just equal to b squared. So we have x squared b squared plus a squared y squared is equal to a squared b squared. And if we divide everything by a squared b squared, what happens now? This becomes x squared all over a squared plus, eto, a squared, tsaka a squared matatanggal yan. So we have y squared over b squared equals, eto naman, magiging iisa na lang, equals 1. And this is now the equation of the ellipse with center at 0, 0. This brings us now to theorem number 1, which states that the standard equation of an ellipse with center at 0, 0 are x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1 for horizontal ellipses. So, ibig sabihin, parang ganyan yung kanyang itsura. And x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared equals 1 for vertical ellipses. Ganyan naman yung kanyang itsura. Note here that a is always greater than b. At malalaman mo kung ano yung orientation ng ellipse kung nasaan yung mas malaking denominator. Kasi nga, palaging mas malaki yung a dapat natin. So, pag horizontal siya, dapat mas malaki yung nasa x. Kapag vertical siya, mas malaki yung nasa y. So, always remember that a is always greater than b for ellipses. So, let's determine the orientation of the following ellipses. First, x squared over 9 plus y squared over 25 is equal to 1. Since mas malaki yung denominator ng y natin, then we say that this is a vertical ellipse. Number 2, x squared over 25 plus y squared over 16 is equal to 1. So, mas malaki yung ating nasa x, therefore this is a horizontal ellipse. Third, x squared over 36 plus y squared over 40 minus 1 is equal to 0. So, pag nilipat natin itong negative 1 doon sa kabila, so magiging 1 yan. Wala naman siyang effect doon sa ating orientation, di ba? Kasi nga, still, mas malaki pa rin yung nasa y. So, this is vertical. And finally, we have 25x squared equals 4,225 minus 169y squared. Actually, kapag ginawa natin yung standard form, we can see that that is just equal to x squared over 169 plus y squared over 25 equals 1. And mas malaki yung nasa x. Therefore, horizontal siya. Now, let's determine the foci, vertices, the co-vertices, and the lengths of the major and minor axes of the ellipse with equation x squared over 25 plus y squared over 9 equals 1. So, una muna, tignan natin, ano ba yung orientation ng ellipse natin? We know that this is horizontal kasi nga, mas malaki yung ating nasa x. Our a here is 5 and our b is 3. B squared is equal to a squared minus c squared. We can find that c is actually equal to 4. So, the center now is at 0, 0. Dito natin makikita. So, since horizontal to find the vertices, mag-plus or minus tayo ng a doon sa x kasi horizontal siya, di ba? So, 0 minus 5 is negative 5 and yung y natin magre-retain. 0 plus 5 is 5 and yung y natin magre-retain. Ganon din sa ating focus, mag-plus or minus tayo ng 4 doon sa x ng ating center. So, we have f sub 1 is negative 4, 0, and f sub 2 is at 4, 0. And for our co-vertices, doon naman tayo sa y ng center. So, plus or minus 3, we have 0, 3, and 0, negative 3. The length of our major axis is 10 units because our A is 5, so 2A is equal to 10. And the length of the minor axis is 6 units because our B is 3, so 2 times 3 is 6. So, eto yung itsura ng ating ellipse. Theorem number 2, the standard equation of an ellipse with C at HK are x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared is equal to 1 for horizontal ellipses, and x minus h squared over b squared plus y minus k squared over a squared equals 1 for vertical ellipses. Now, let's determine the center, the foci, the vertices, the co-vertices, and the lengths of the major and minor axes of the ellipse with equation x minus 3 squared over 225 plus y plus 2 squared over 144 equals 1. So we can see that this is a horizontal ellipse kasi nga mas malaki yung nasa x natin. So A is 15 and B is 12. By our relationship, we can see that C is actually equal to 9. Our center is at 3, negative 2. So since horizontal ito, to find the vertices, mag-plus or minus tayo ng 15 doon sa x ng ating center. Kasi horizontal to. So 3 minus 15 is negative 12. Then negative 2 magre-retain. And 3 plus 15 is 18. And magre-retain yung negative 2. For our foci, mag-plus or minus tayo ng 9 doon sa C natin. Kasi horizontal to. So we have 3 minus 9 is negative 6. Then magre-retain yung negative 2. F sub 2 is 3 plus 9 is 12. Then magre-retain yung negative 2. And for the co-vertices, dito naman tayo sa y magpa-plus or minus ng 12. So we have 3 times negative 2 plus 12 is 10. And 3 times negative 2 minus 12 is negative 14. The length of our major axis is 30 units, so that is 15 times 2. And the length of the minor axis is 24 units because that is 12 times 2. So, ito naman yung itsura ng ating ellipse. The eccentricity of an ellipse is the ratio of the undirected distance between the foci to the undirected distance between the vertices. So, that is E is equal to C over A. And the general form of the equation of an ellipse is given by ax squared plus by squared plus dx plus ey plus f equals 0, where a and b have the same sign. So let's review lang, paano natin malalaman kung yung general form ng isang equation ay parabola. So kapag parabola siya, isa lang yung squared term. So either meron tayong x squared or meron tayong y squared. But for ellipse, palaging dalawa. Meron tayong x squared, meron din tayong y squared. Pero, dapat yung a natin at yung b natin, yung coefficients ng ating squared terms, kailangan sila ay same sign. So, kung positive yung isa, positive din dapat yung isa. Kung negative yung isa, negative din yung isa. Pero usually ay positive silang dalawa. So let's determine the center, the foci, the vertices, the co-vertices, and the lengths of the major and minor axes, and the equation for the principal axis of 9x squared plus 5y squared minus 18x plus 10y minus 31 is equal to 0. So for our solution, eto kasi naka-general form siya. So kailangan ilagay muna natin siya sa standard form by completing the square. So we have 9x squared minus 18x plus blank plus 5y squared plus 10y plus blank is equal to 31 plus blank plus blank. Saan galing yung dalawang blank na yan? Kung ano yung dinagdag mo dito sa kabila, idadagdag mo dapat doon sa kabila. So, ilabas natin yung 9 doon sa ating x's. So, we have 9 times x squared minus 2x plus blank. Plus, ilabas natin yung 5. We have 5y squared plus 2y plus blank is equal to 31 plus blank plus blank. By completing the square, ano ba yung ilalagay natin dito? We have negative 2 minus 2 is negative 1 squared. Sa kabila naman is 2 divided by 2 is 1 squared. Okay? So yung idadagdag natin, we now have 9 times x squared minus 2x plus 1 plus 5 times y squared plus 2y plus 1 is equal to 31 plus 9 times 1, yan, and 5 times 1. Yan. So by simplifying, we now have 9 times x minus 1 squared plus 5 times y plus 1 squared is equal to 45. Dividing everything by 45, then we have x minus 1 squared over 5 plus y plus 1 squared over 9 equals 1. This tells us that this ellipse is vertical kasi nga, mas malaki yung denominator ng ating y. And our a is 3, our b is square root of 5. By our relationship, we see that c is equal to 2. So since we know that, yung center natin ngayon, alam natin na nasa 1, negative 1. So since vertical siya, para makuha natin yung vertices, dito tayo sa y magpa-plus or minus ng 3. So we have 1, negative 1 plus 3 is 2, and our vertex 2 is 1, negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. For our foci, again, since vertical ito, so doon ulit tayo sa ating y magpa-plus or minus ng 2. So 1, negative 1 plus 2 is 1, and we have 1, negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. Our co-vertices naman, doon tayo sa x magpa-plus or minus ng square root of 5. So, co-vertex 1 is 1 plus square root of 5, negative 1. And co-vertex 2 is 1 minus square root of 5, negative 1. The length of our major axis is 6, that is 2 times 3. And the length of the minor axis is 2 square root of 5, that is 2 times square root of 5. And our principal axis is at x equals 1. So, saan natin makikita to? Diba sabi ko kanina, ang principal axis kung saan naglalay yung ating foci. Yung line na yon. Saan ba yung line na yon? Tignan natin yung x natin, hindi nagbago. Kasi vertical to eh, di ba? So, vertical siyang ganyan. So, eto yung ating principal axis, which is x equals 1. And this is now the graph of the function.